Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today once again we're here with the SVL 97-2, and the implement I have hooked up today is the CMP Hydra bucket, and I am very excited to get into spreading some dirt, some sandy loam using this attachment. It's the people from CMP, first of all, when I ordered the bucket, they're just a tremendous group of people to deal with. And like a lot of you, I have also an affinity for very well engineered products that work very well. I used one of these originally on a Kubota SVL 75. This bucket functions like a normal bucket would. It has the reversible cutting edge. It's an all-around heavy-duty bucket. But the key thing about this one, and maybe you've seen some of the other videos, is it has basically a version of a Harley rake built into the back of it. So basically the rotating drum with the carbide tips is bidirectional. You could spin it forward or backward depending on your which direction you're going. And it's nice because it can kind of do two things at once. Basically you can grade and also power rake it and level it at the same time without switching attachments. So I'm very excited to try this and see how it works. I'm sure it'll work the same as the other one. It operates on low flow hydraulics at up to 24 gallons per minute, as it says on the bucket. It hooked up really well. It just like your standard bucket, but it's really nice to be able to power grade and grade at the same time, especially when doing sandy loam. So we're going to give it a try, and I'm sure it'll live up to the same expectations I did when I used one on an SVL 75. And I thought I would give everyone a visual of what it looks like from inside the cab. As you can see, we have the bottom of our bucket with a reversible cutting edge, but up here we have the Harley Rake type drum with all the carbide cutters. And basically what I like is it's bidirectional. I could go the one way, speed it up, and it'll stop, and if you want to and you go backwards, you can reverse direction. Very, very neat. And I'm very excited to try this attachment. So we'll see what it does. Okay guys, we're back here this morning with the SVL 97, and today we have the Hydra bucket hooked up. It has the built-in Harley rake on the bottom of the bucket, and we're going to spread, I think, about 8 or 9 loads of loam with it, and they're sitting right over here, and we're gonna get those spread and get those graded off with a Hydra bucket, and then I'll probably hit it with a Harley rake and then seed it. There's something about that loam that's interesting, is there must be some mineral in it the deer like, because this morning there were 9 deer, including 3 bucks. Of course, they're in velvet now, and pawing through that stuff, like just eating out of it, whatever it is. There must be some mineral or something in there that they really like. But well, we'll get that all spreaded, and then we'll maybe do an evaluation of the Harley Rake and the CMP Hydra bucket. And there's the finished outcome. All ready to be seated and rolled. The CMP Hydra bucket and the 8-foot Tm8 Harley Rake. And plot way up in the back is one I did about a week and a half ago. Really nice seed bed, and it should come in quite nicely. And here's a little review. We're going to take a look at the SVL 97, and on it we have the CMP Attachments Hydra bucket. It has the built-in Harley rake in the back part of the bucket. Just want to give you my thoughts. I think it's in a very well engineered, very well thought out, incredibly handy attachment to own. Would I buy it again? You could probably tell, yes, I would all day long and probably twice on Sunday. It absolutely lived up to my expectations. What it does a great job at is if you're doing over a little bit of rough ground or breaking up clumps in conjunction with back dragging as you go. It'll give you an absolutely smooth grade as you're backing up and back dragging. It does a wonderful job. It will break up stones. It basically gets it almost 95%. What I mean that is compared to a Harley rake. Would I consider it to be a replacement for a Harley rake? I'm not going to go that far, but it is almost very, very close. You can curl the bucket back and set the carbide tip bar down, the raking bar, and actually go backwards. I haven't probably spent enough time, but it is a little challenging to get your depth absolutely correct without having a set of gauge wheels like a Harley rake. But it is a phenomenal implement for like grading off a gravel driveway, things like that. Anything where you have we're just back dragging something alone won't do it because it's just so hard. The carbide tipped Harley rake on the Hydra bucket will actually break up the high spots, and basically so when you back drag it's absolutely smooth. So it does accomplish two things simultaneously with one implement. It is phenomenal. Like I said, it will get the grade about 90% there. Could you get away with it without using the Harley rake? Yeah, sure, sometimes. What I like about the Harley rake, I use the Harley rake for finishing. If I'm doing a seed bed, I absolutely want to use the Harley rake. Where if I'm not doing a seed bed, the CMP Hydra bucket will be perfectly fine. It will save you the step. It's very simple to operate. Basically, it's 0 to 24 gallons per minute, as it says on there. So it is low flow hydraulics. So you want to pay attention. You want to make sure you're not, well, with the 97, you kind of dial in your hydraulic flow. You want to make sure that you're not crossing over and into a high flow. So just keep it, with the 97, as long as your auxiliary light is not blinking, you're in low flow and you're fine. And it does an amazing job. You only have two grease fittings, one on each side of the rake itself. You want to keep those well greased. When I talk to the people at CMP Attachments, like with a Harley rake on the back of a Harley rake drum, you're looking for maybe just 2 or 3 squirts from a grease gun. When you grease each one of these after a few hours, you want to give it about I give it a good 12 pumps. They said you actually want to see the grease coming out when you raise up the bucket and look at the bar. You want to see the grease. It basically keeps everything lubricated, and the grease also forces the dirt out. That was their explanation to me. They said the ones that ever do come back, it's always a reoccurring theme where the bearings and everything were just totally dry because nobody was greasing their grease fittings. But there's only one on each side of the bucket. It does have a pressure relief valve that's hiding back there, so if the bar were to bind on a rock or an object, it's not going to send that shock wave back through your hydraulic system in your skid loader. So for me, this is kind of a must own. A quick word about the people from CMP Attachments. They're phenomenal. If you call them up, they'll actually they'll answer the phone, or if not, they'll return your call promptly. A lot of these manufacturers and factory reps, they almost sometimes seem like they're royalty. They don't want anything to do with talking to an end user. They just, you know, hey, go to your dealer. And that's fine, but there's two things with a dealer. A dealer is in the business of selling the product. They're in the business, theoretically, of repairing the product, but they don't usually use the product themselves. So a lot of times I find when I buy an implement, if I have a question, I usually like to talk directly to the manufacturer, to the people that actually built the product, to see what they had in mind in certain areas, like you know, how much grease should you put in to each side of the rolling drum. You know, is it 3 pumps? Or, and they said, you know, the answer, well, I would have normally did 3 pumps, but the answer is 12. But that's why I talked to the manufacturer. And sometimes you'll get a completely different answer from a dealer. So that's why I usually like to talk to sometimes if I have a question, I actually ask the people that built it, that designed it, and see what they had in mind. But it is a phenomenal product. It's an excellent grading tool. The bucket is definitely heavy duty. It's every, you know, it'll do everything that the standard heavy bucket for the 97 will do with the side cutters. This will do it almost just as well. I did have somebody ask me, you know, you have the kind of a spacer in there where a cover for where the rotating drum is. You know, do I notice a decreased capacity of the bucket? Because the standard bucket would hold a little more, and the answer is no. I mean, prior to the 97, all my time was in an SVL 75, the next size down. This thing, of course, with a skid bucket, you can basically stack dirt right up on it. So, no, I didn't notice any difference really. Just using the bucket, moving a lot of sandy loam. Capacity-wise, I didn't feel like I was running back to the pile constantly or anything. It was fine in that regard. But it's an outstanding grading product for like gravel driveways, anything where you need to get it smooth. It's perfect. Then we'll kind of move over here and take a look at the Tm8 Harley Rake. Like I said, if I'm doing a seed bed for planting, you know, seed for grass, for me there's nothing like the Harley Rake. I don't have the cutting edge in the way. You have the gauge wheels as opposed to the CMP pocket, so I can control depth much easier. Also, the adjustment for the flap that goes across, I leave that in the lowest position because I want it to fine grade the material. I really don't want it letting big clumps or anything by. I want it to basically break up any clumps and turn it into just, you know, fine grading, so when you put the seed down and roll it, it comes out perfect. As I mentioned, and everybody's got a different thing. I mean, you know, I prefer a Harley Rake basically on the 3-point hitch on a tractor. I mentioned that in my last video. There's nothing wrong with having one on a skid loader. The advantage of the skid loader is you can go to the job with one piece of equipment, the skid loader. You have your bucket, your CMP bucket, and then finish up with a Harley Rake. You have one machine on the job. Also, the Harley Rake that goes on a skid loader is bi-directional. The one on the 3-point hitch is not. That doesn't matter on a 3-point hitch because I'm never going backwards anyway. I'm always constantly going forward. So being able to reverse the grading bar on a 3-point hitch for me would be pretty meaningless. What I like about the Harley Rake on the 3-point hitch tractor is I'm up high, so I have outstanding visibility. I also like the longer Harley Rake. I like the 8-footer. It seems almost everybody I know has a 6 or 7-footer. I like the 8-footer because sitting up high in the cab, I can look off on each side, and I have excellent visibility of the end of where the Harley Rake is. Like if I'm doing next to a structure, next to a house or a garage or a building or a tree line, I have excellent visibility where the end of each side of the Harley Rake is. Also, I find when I'm doing a big open area, like the other ones I think I showed in the video, the longer Harley Rake, I think, does a better job of actually I just think I prefer it. It just grades better being a longer bar. I can actually make everything look perfect just by not having a shorter one and just running shorter rows. So I like the 8-footer. This one also has the power angle, which they all do, and then I can take the sides off if I want, put them on the back and angle the Harley Rake, and I can throw all the rocks to one side, and actually if I'm grading like an edge of a field, just keep moving everything to one side if I want, and actually have it almost end off in a hedgerow. But for those reasons, I prefer also with the one that mounts on the tractor like this. When I use one on the SVL 75, you know, you have all the dust and everything right in front of your face. I like having all the dust and dirt being kicked up behind me as I'm moving away from it. Also, as I mentioned in my other video, I find I can cover my tracks. The R4 industrial tires cover. It's easier to cover them with a Harley Rake on a 3-point hitch because you're always moving forward. Skid loader, you're kind of going back and forth, back and forth. You can do it, you know, then if you had a turn, then you got to kind of make sure you're not tearing everything up with your tracks, where that's the other advantage I feel of using it on a tractor. That's what works for me. You know, if you have a skid loader and you don't have a 3-point hitch, do you have to run out and get a tractor? Was that what I'm saying? No, not at all. If I had just the track loader, I would probably get the Harley Rake for the track loader, just because that makes sense. Rather than, but I have the tractor for a variety of other reasons. Some of my other videos, I have that 7-foot monster, that Pronovos snowblower that's on the back in some of my other videos, with the snowplow blade on the front of the 5740. You know, and I have one person say, doesn't it, you know, crank your neck when you're constantly looking behind you with a Harley Rake? Not at all. With the 5740, it has a swivel seat. Pull up on the one lever, you can cock the seat at an angle, and basically I just kind of half turn. I'm watching it as I'm going, and being I'm up high, I find it's a lot easier for me to basically sit there and judge height and judge grade. Being up high with the visibility, that's the benefit of a cab tractor over a skid loader. But that's what works for me. You know, it's not a one-size-fits-all world. Otherwise, we'd all be chasing to marry the same person. So, anyway, I hope that helps. If you have any questions or comments, I'd love to answer anything I've missed, or anything any comments. I certainly welcome them. A little bit of the work I did over here today. Kind of zoom out. Yeah, and you have really good results. That was all done with a CMP Hydra bucket, and I just kind of fine graded it with a Harley Rake, and I did that bigger piece in the back about a week ago. And it's all seeded, rolled, and it's supposed to rain tonight and tomorrow, so I get some water on it, and hopefully should be in pretty good shape. Okay, have a great day. Here's just another quick overview of finished product that basically using the CMP Hydra bucket, and I again follow it with a Harley Rake just to fine grade it. You can really get some incredible results. I don't do this generally every day. I pretty much work for myself, doing site work on my own projects, but I couldn't be happier with the results.